Here are two sentences, or it's one sentence. I love saying it and I love hearing it. I just finished a good novel. Yes. I think a lot of people would agree with that. And I just finished a good novel, Unharmonious by Lane Boyd. So we invited Lane.
Did you read that? Because
I did read
I'm reading this.
You're
This
reading
is her
her
new novel.
New one, which we're going to talk about.
Oh, gosh. Then I'll have to, see you sometime. We see Lane more than we see each other.
Lane.
Hi, Lane.
Thanks for coming in to talk about your latest, Dinner and a Murder.
And
Thank
this
you for
one,
having me.
Gosh, this is so good. Here's where I am, though. I'm right there.
Yeah.
But I love it because it's about St. Louis. I mean, and it all takes place in St. Louis. So you feel almost like you're eavesdropping in somebody's diary or something.
Yeah, and Lane, thanks for doing that. Now, why did you do that?
Well, I think that it's just not right that New York and Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. get all the murders. They get,
especially when we have all the murders.
have them.
Yes.
We own that title.
Yes.
And St. Louis is such a wonderful place to live and work and raise a family and eat and go see the art museum and the zoo and the symphony and the butterfly house and all the wonderful things.
Well, here's what I like about how you do it, though, Lane. It's so seamless. You're reading it
so
and enjoying
easy to
it.
read.
It doesn't seem the least bit obligatory. It's
Tone
not.
is so friendly, and
Yes.
you're just so absorbed in the story. You're not, the writing doesn't get in the way like it does in a lot
But
of.
you realize, I just read that he went down 44 and got off at
Yeah,
Grand. Oh my gosh!
exactly. Yes.
An interesting point about Dinner and a Murder by Lane Boyd.
Yes.
Available now on Amazon.com and other places.
Yes.
Is that the character, one of your main characters, goes to the Fountain on Locust?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, I like to put a lot of places that I really enjoy into my books because I'm a St. Louis homegrown girl, and I like to promote my city where I live and all the fun things. And I will confess that the Fountain is my very favorite restaurant.
That's so nice. And
Okay,
it's so nice.
that's,
it's in
that's
here.
the commercial, Joy.
Yes,
You just got your commercial.
Yes, let's put that on YouTube.
Now, the characters in here, Julie Davenport, who married Jack Davenport, and her best friend she grew up with, Sue Lee Twan, are throughout this book. Are they in Dinner and a Murder?
Well, originally they were not. Originally I had 7 completely separate mysteries that I was going to work on one at a time. But by the time Unharmonious was released and I got all kinds of feedback from so many readers, they really wanted to see those characters in the rest of my books. And I thought, I didn't put them there.
Yeah.
So I was almost finished with Dinner and Murder, but I wasn't quite. And I sat back and I thought, how can I tie this in when this book is almost finished? But at the end, I bring them in.
No kidding.
And at the end of this book, when you have your teaser, we are going.
About what point would that be?
It's at the very, very end. It's
got a ways to go.
after the book. After the book is over, you get a teaser for the next book that's coming up.
Nice.
And so I have a way to merge my characters.
That'll be interesting to see.
And
Well,
so
you
I
know,
have a new direction.
I smell a cereal.
I have to say, I love this so much because this opens, Ron, which you haven't read this yet, with this back in the day, what is it?
1865.
1865.
Right after
Okay.
the Civil War.
Yes, and it sets it up with the incident that happens
In
back
St.
then.
Louis?
Yes.
On the Mississippi, I
Yes.
believe.
Yes.
Yeah, so you get to go back into St. Louis history and,
That's
be in
great.
time back then, and of all the, you just feel like you're immersed in that, and then go forward to how it's very clever, and it's very fun to read. So
Lane, you mentioned in the foreword to this book, I believe it was, that you started it over 20 years ago. And
I
you
did.
You put the book down. Who can't identify with that? Everyone's got a book that they want to write
if you're
someday.
a writer and it's been 20 years, don't worry.
Yeah, there is hope. You finally did pick it up and write it. Now, 20 years later, as you said, it was now it's the 90s, although you're writing past that. But did your ideas change because of that? Did you write it differently than you thought you would?
No, actually, it was about 80 to 90% done.
Oh,
when it
wow.
went on the back burner.
Wow.
Like I said in the author's note, life got in the way, and
As
I
it
know a
does,
lot
yeah.
of people can relate to that. And it just went on the back burner. In the meantime, I started doing ghostwriting and editing for other people. And my husband finally cornered me and he said, when are you going to finish your book?
Get it off of that shelf.
You didn't say, does this book make my butt look fat?
No. That might be in one of her books coming up now. Unharmonious was Lane Boyd's first book, and now she has the follow-up, and not really technically a follow-up, but Dinner and a Murder.
Yes.
And you will be here at the Fountain on Locust downstairs in this building when?
On Halloween Day, 11, right when they open
That's
at 11.
this Saturday.
Yes, this Saturday at 11 o'clock.
And we'll go probably till around 12:30 or 1.
Yeah,
and you'll be signing books.
I will be signing. I'll have both my books.
You'll have them both there to buy, too, if you want.
I will have them both,
Great.
yes. And you can come.
How
you
much
get
is
them
this
signed.
book?
Come have an ice cream martini and buy a book.
The books are $13.99.
That's fantastic.
With the tax, it brings them over $15, so I just chop it off at $15 and say that includes the tax.
Yeah.
What a woman.
Because I don't want to say, well, in the city of St. Louis, it's going to be $15.05, and then in Wildwood, it's $15.08.
Exactly.
I'm not doing that.
And
it's
now
just $15.
there's so many places where you have to pay for parking.
Right.
What's happening to this town?
But for the record, she is paying that sales tax, though. It does get paid. So.
It gets paid.
Lane, thank you so much for bringing them by. Thanks for telling us about them.
Yes, and thanks for writing all the great stuff and making our locations in your book. It's just fabulous.
Well, thank you for having me. This is just wonderful, and it is my pleasure to put my favorite restaurant in a book.
That's great. Thanks. And thanks to Nighthawk Security, this segment is made possible through their generosity. They're locally owned and locally monitored here in St. Louis since 1974. Home and business security for the St. Louis metro area for over 40 years. Call 846-4600 and ask for Joe.